Has anyone ever said to you that you have glottal fry, or maybe they use the word vocal fry, and they hear it when you present? If they have told you that, it is probably a distraction that they are experiencing when they speak with you or when they hear you speak. And once you have a distraction in your speech, the audience, whoever that is going to start paying attention to that. And once they start paying attention to that, they are no longer listening to you. And once they're no longer listening to you, you have lost credibility just like that. If you have this problem, you might want to listen to this episode. Hi, my name is Linda Waltner-Stuckey, and in this episode, I'm going to be showing you some ways to eliminate glottal fry if glottal fry or vocal fry is present in your speech. But before we do that, I'm going to give you some basic information about it. I want to talk about what it is, why it's there, and how, and then we'll move on to the ways in which you can eliminate it from your speech. First of all, what is glottal fry? Glottal fry is a rough quality of voice that is crackly and unnatural sounding. It is not clear, it is not natural, and it is a distraction. When I speak to audiences about the way in which voices impact the listener's ears, I usually ask them, what do you think about glottal fry? What perception do you have of someone who is using glottal fry? And one of the things that they always say is that the person who has glottal fry in their speech, first of all, it's a distraction. But secondly, they also say that it sounds as if that person is a little bit underwhelmed. When does glottal fry occur? Well, mostly glottal fry is present in sentences and oftentimes at the ends of sentences. It also can be on phrases, or it could be on just individual words within a sentence. If it is a lot or excessive, it very much becomes a distraction for the listener. So what exactly are the reasons for vocal fry happening even in the first place? Generally, vocal fry is something that occurs because there is not enough air support to support the vocal cords. So when we normally speak, we take a deep breath and we send it up through our vocal cords, and the vocal cords begin to vibrate at a very fast rate. With glottal fry, however, there isn't enough breath being pushed through the vocal cords, and therefore they don't come together like they should, and you get that creaking, popping, frying sound that is associated with glottal fry. Normally, glottal fry is not associated with tension in the vocal cords. It's just that airflow is not enough. It's moving too slowly. What's really cool about the way the vocal cords act is that you have these two elastic cords that are open. They're V-shaped and open and open above your lungs. And when you send air through them, the bottom opens first. That air pushes the bottom of the vocal cord open first, and then as it closes, it's actually opening the top part. And so the wave kind of looks like this when it happens, that the vocal cords are in motion. It's a very cool little thing that happens with our vocal cords that I get a little geeky about. Lots of different changes to the vocal cords, or anything that happens along the way that sound travels up and towards the end of your mouth until you make words. Anything along that way any changes in anything can change the way that sound occurs. And of course, in this case, we are specifically talking about low pressure or low amounts of air coming up through the vocal cords, causing them not to be able to vibrate efficiently like they should, and having some openings in the vocal cords. They're not coming together just right. so that airflow is coming through, causing that popping, that creaky sound that you hear when you hear glottal fry. Glottal fry doesn't actually cause vocal abuse, or it's not abusive. You can't really hurt your vocal cords. So that's one thing to remember, but it is difficult to listen to. So how do you get rid of vocal fry or glottal fry? And again, I'm using these interchangeably. So if you hear me use glottal fry or vocal fry, they are the same thing. So just make sure you remember that. The first way, and I'm going to give you two changes you can make. Number one, the first way is to use better breath support. Now, breath support is based on getting good use of your diaphragm muscle. Your diaphragm muscle is a dome-shaped muscle that sits underneath your ribs. And when you take a good breath, you are actually causing this muscle to kind of contract and move up like this. And it pushes your stomach out of the way. So a good way to know if you are getting good diaphragmatic breath support is to actually place your hand on your stomach, take a nice deep breath in. And if you are using good diaphragmatic breath support, your tummy is going to extend out. I'm going to show you. I'll stand up. I am placing my hands on my stomach. I'm going to take a nice deep breath in and then exhale. Inhale, exhale. So that is diaphragmatic breath support. And if you're unfamiliar with diaphragmatic breath support, one thing that you can do is lie on your bed, place your hand or a book on your tummy, and breathe naturally. And just watch how your stomach goes up and down as you breathe. It's pretty difficult not to use diaphragmatic breath support when you are lying down. So if you are completely unfamiliar with this concept, that's exactly what I recommend that you do to make sure you know what the feeling is. You can feel the tummy elevating and you are producing it correctly. All right, let's say you've got it. You're doing it correctly. Now, the next thing that needs to happen is that enough air, enough squeezing of your core is able to push some of that air out. So it's not a really tight squeeze in the area of your core, but you do need to squeeze a little bit out so that the air flows up nicely through your vocal cords, and those vocal cords begin to vibrate very naturally and very well to create your nice sounding voice. If I don't take a very good breath, I might sound like this when I say ah. Ah, you can hear the crackling sound and it's not clear at all. But if I take a nice deep breath, squeeze a little bit with the muscles around in my core so that that air is pushed up nicely, it sounds more like this. Ah. So as you are practicing to make sure that you have a clear voice, get your nice deep breath and then say, ah. And as you are holding or sustaining that sound, you should feel contractions of your muscles in your core actually coming in and tightening to be able to push that air through your vocal cords at a good rate. Give that a try. Once you've done that, you can start doing things like counting. So what happens frequently when people have glottal fry is that at the ends of their words or their sentences, and they're using that downward pitch at the end of a sentence or at the end of a word, they don't give it enough support to keep it clear sounding. They might say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or you might hear them say it during a sentence. They might say, my name is Linda. I have a company called Clearly Speaking. So you can hear as I am dropping at the ends of my sentences that glottal fry is sneaking in and very obviously there. That's because I'm not supporting with my muscles. I'm not contracting hard enough and pushing hard enough. So the next step, once you have discovered what the breath is that I'm talking about, is to do things like counting or do things like sustaining vowels and making sure that you are pushing the entire time and that sound stays clear the entire vowel that you're sustaining or the words that you are saying. And I really recommend you start on something easy like counting. And you can do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So you can see I'm doing short phrases almost when I put a few numbers together, or you can just do it on every number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm being very careful not to add glottal fry to my to these words and phrases. This would be a great start to becoming really familiar with the idea of using diaphragmatic breath support and adding it to speech. I wouldn't go much farther than that. I mean, eventually you'll be trying to do this in conversation, but that's a little ways off. You need to work up to conversation before you can use it in conversation. So take little steps at a time, making sure it's happening and make sure you are knowing what it feels like and what it sounds like as you speak. You want to become familiar with that because you are going to need to be able to identify it in your everyday conversation as you use it. But you also want to be able to identify when you have fallen back and perhaps used some glottal fry in your speech.